Peace and bliss. Welcome back to Reclaiming Our Roots. And you know what, oops, my toes in the frame. It is Show the Garden Tour. So as you can see, leading out from the front door, this is my kitchen here, is a beautiful basil that I eat from on a weekly basis. I made so much pesto, I can't see straight, and it's blooming and booming. The other day it wanted to go to seed. It started to put on a flower. Anytime you see that, just deadhead it. And deadhead means just to remove the flower. And what it will do, it will force the flower to put its energy towards growing more leaves. So that's my basil. And look at Miss Beautiful, Miss Figgy. Isn't she gorgeous? Miss Figgy is expecting multiples. Can you see? See the figs? She's loaded with figs. I'm so happy. Last year she bore fruit to 4 figs. So she's in high production mode this year and looking gorgeous. She took on some yellowing, so I increased the nitrogen that helps with yellowing. Also, it could be attributed to inconsistent watering. We have had some really hot dog days as of late, so that may have had something to do with it. So I increased her water as well. And I also, I'm feeding her phosphorus and potassium because she's expecting. And by expecting, I mean she's putting on fruit. So she needs the phosphorus and potassium to help with her blooms, her fruit, and her root development so she can produce more fruit. But overall, she's looking good. And down here, I am so ecstatic. We finally have some bulbs loading on deck here. You see that? A stark difference from where we were last year. Last year, by this time, I was burying my onion bed because I trimmed them, I over trimmed them, caused them to brown and later die. Here we have a spearmint. I did a harvest video. Look how much it's grown. It's put on a lot of new growth. And over here is our second planter of onions. As you can see, got some red onions coming in. Everything looks great. I am just so happy and pleased that we're gonna have some onions, guys, from our garden. Happy, happy, happy. And here is catnip. It's just beautiful and green and lush. Gonna have to cut that one back as well. Here's an example. You see this one here? It's in the process of putting on a flower, right? So what I do, I just come by and I remove it. That's deadheading. So it doesn't put its energy into producing a flower head. So what it will do is continue to put on more leaves. This is an antiseptic plant. As you can see, it's starting to put on flowers. Again, I'm going to remove it. It's called deadheading. Okay? So the plant will force its energy into producing more plant. And new to the garden, I picked up some chives. And some chives here. And down here, we have some basil, Africa blue basil. I'll be harvesting off of that probably in the coming week or two. And down here, I had a extra shishito pepper lying around, so I put it in this 1 gallon container just to hold space until I could free up some space in the garden once my cabbage is ready. But you do not want to grow peppers in small 1 gallon containers because it will stifle and stunt the growth of your fruit. Okay? Your fruit will only produce at the level as big as the container that it's grown in. Okay? And down here, I have some lemon. What is this? No, lemongrass. And I will be up potting these. First time in the garden. And over here is my to-do pile. Yes, this is my to-do pile. I picked up some more sweet potato leaf. Not sweet potato leaf. No, sweet potatoes. But these are the sweet potato leaves. And I picked up a Chicago fig. At Mom's. This is the fig tree that I have. Miss Figgy is a Chicago plant. Chicago fig. And I have some tomatoes that need to be planted, as well as some squash. And this here, you saw this on the last video. This is a Meyer lemon tree that I will be uppotting soon. Some flowers that I picked up to bring in the pollinators. Here, I planted some strawberries that I'm gonna have to pull up. They aren't doing well. These two containers here are dahlias that I grew from bulb. And over here is a beautiful green and lush pineapple sage. I harvested from this plant as well. I use them in my tea for medicinal purposes. And this container is a raspberry tree that I believe obviously is dormant. I don't think it's dead. I think it's just dormant. And I planted some strawberries in there that I'm gonna remove. I may leave them in there for another week or so to see how they pan out. And a beautiful little decoration I added to the garden to bring some pop of color in. It's just a little ornament here, a little bird, little hummingbird. And here we have sage, which is doing well and thriving. It put on buds, and I deadhead them. And over here we have a brandywine, two brandywine tomato plants that are looking good. And what I'm about to do is prune these bottom leaves, because you want to prevent, when you water your plant, you want to prevent splashback from getting on your plants, because then that can produce disease and blight, which is common in tomato plants. I'm going to do some pruning. A new addition to this container, some marigolds to bring in the pollinators and the good beneficial pests and deter the pests. And this beautiful girl is my mint plant, looking all green and lush. And over here we have a purple, the Cherokee purple tomato plant coming along nicely. And we have two containers of Greek oregano. My shishito plant is looking beautiful. It is tall and lanky. I have not brought myself to the point where I can prune my tomatoes. I put my pepper plants, I know how to do it, but this year I waited too late. And by pruning your pepper plants, supposedly it's supposed to produce a more healthier, stronger pepper plant. It would become really big and husky and put on more fruit. But I let the time pass, and I just could not bring myself to trim this plant, because ideally they recommend you trim your pepper plants when you have 3 sets of leaves, which would be a total of 6 leaves or more. Then you prune it, so to produce a stronger, bushier plant, which will yield more fruit. I will try it next year, but like I said, that window of opportunity closed for me, and I was not about to start pruning my pepper plants and delay fruit production. So I decided against it, but God willing, next year I will. This is my eggplant. Both of these are doing well. They're on a phosphorus diet, because as you can see here, it's about to start to produce some eggplant. It's about to start flowering. So anytime you see signs of stems, they're going to produce flowers. That means fruit is coming, and you want to increase your phosphorus and potassium intake. Okay, so I have actually 3 containers of eggplant. And as you can see, added some marigolds, interplanting. And here I have a bush slicer. 2 containers here of bush slicers, which are new to the garden this year. It's a bush variety, which means it's not supposed to vine out. I do see that it has put on tendrils, but that comes with growing cucumbers. So I will be monitoring it to make sure it doesn't start to, vine, because it's supposed to grow in a bush formation. Okay, so I have 2 containers of bush slicers. And over here is my Advarsky, which is a tried and true pepper. It's a thick-walled, sweet stuffing pepper that we grow every year, that my family, we absolutely love. And I think I have 1, 2, I think 4 containers. So a lot of peppers. And this here is our Marconi. This is going to grow huge. I think these Marconis can grow as long as 12 inches long. So I can't wait to harvest those. Pickle them and eat them fresh in our salads. This here says Marconi. One of my Marconis died. This is actually a pineapple tomato plant that that broke. One of the stems broke from the main plant, so what I did was I rooted it out and I planted. So 2 plants, 1 plant yields 2 plants. Here, more Marconi here. Planted some marigolds, Marconi. And here is the motherland squash. It's new to the garden this year. I forgot the name of the, where did I get this from? Baker's Creek. So this is a new variety that we're growing. I noticed that it does grow much slower than the Clemson Spineless, because the Clemson Spineless by this time would probably be up to here. So it is a slow grower, but I can't wait to harvest. And the leaves are edible, and most leaves on your plants are edible, with the exception of rhubarb. As I explained, that's a poisonous leaf. You cannot consume those. And over here is my beautiful basil plant. I interplanted some strawberries in here that are not doing very well. I'm going to give them another week or so. If not, I'm going to pull them up. It was my attempt at intercropping or interplanting or companion sharing. I mean, take your pick of diversifying my space and growing more in less space. And over here is my Malabar spinach. It's new to the garden this year. Can't wait to try that. My understanding, it is very heat tolerant, and it's a vining spinach. So we shall see. Looking good so far. We have purple sage and my beautiful, beautiful thyme. And I have rosemary in here, but she has taken over. So next year I will be thinning this container out and grow thyme exclusively in here, and grow rosemary in a separate container. Remember to always plant seeds of love. And over here is potato row. As you can see, they are starting to die back. Oops, sorry about that. I don't know where I left off. But I was mentioning that the dieback, once they start to die back, they'll be ready to be harvested. But last week my husband cut the grass and he staked them up for me because they were leaning in the walkway. So he staked them up for me, and this is the first year I've had so much overgrowth on my potatoes. So hopefully that's an indicator that we have a lot of potatoes baking in those containers. So he just used the little fencing that I have. I actually forgot that I had it, and he staked everything up for me. He is a perfectionist at everything that he does, and he just wanted to make sure that they were nice and neat. And he tied them to one of my trees here. Is anchored to my apple tree. So it's really nice and neat. And here is my apple tree that's not doing anything this year. Haven't decided what I'm going to do next year with it. We shall see. That's my apple Granny Smith. And this one here is the Honey Crisp. And over here I have 2 bushes of blueberries. And here is my lemon balm. All beautiful and whatnot. So that's the garden. Well, let me show you the other side. So I just went down one side. But yeah, I am really pleased with my potatoes. Looking so good. And over here is a little plant that I purchased to bring in the pollinators. I don't know what this is. What is this? It's a cherry rose plant. Not doing much. This is a dill plant that I bought and up-potted. And this is new to the garden. Dill is also new to the garden. This here is Vietnamese coriander. Yes, you can harvest the leaves and use them and dehydrate them into powder and use them the way you would coriander powder. And over here are my 2 containers of blueberries. And as you can see, they are bursting with berries. I cannot wait to harvest. Well, I take that back. I've been eating a couple as they ripen. More berries than we had last year, so I'm pleased with that. And we have 4 more containers of potatoes. This is the Yukon Gold variety that we're growing, that I grow every year. It's a family favorite. It's a determinate variety, and I'll link a video at the end of the card detailing how to grow them. And here we have 6 containers of cabbage. I have been really pleased with my cabbage this year. It was only up until last week. You see this white butterfly? It started to wreak havoc on my cabbage. They were blemish free. They were perfect. And now she's starting to riddle them caterpillars. She's laying eggs of the green worm, and they're starting to riddle my cabbage. I did harvest some of the leaves, and I made stuffed cabbage, and they were delicious. I'm probably going to give them, as you can see, they are starting to head up and produce a head. So I'm going to give them probably another week or 2 to see how they do, because I need to make a home for those tomato plants that you saw out front in my to-do pile. So they won't go to waste. I'll just probably pickle some of the leaves and make pickled cabbage out of them, and we'll just do more stuffed cabbage, so it won't be a waste. But I am trying to wait for them to harden up. And over here is the pineapple tomato plant. Planted some marigolds in here. And this is the Dr. Weish. These are all indeterminate varieties, which mean they can grow as high as 12 feet. Indeterminate variety tomatoes grow very tall. Either death or disease will take them 1 or 2 ways out. I planted some marigolds. And here in the last video you saw, I intercrop my tomato plant with a cosmic purple carrot. As you can see, they've sprouted along here. And I have more marigolds with some peppers. I have a watermelon radish planted with a fatale pepper. And remember, these things go. They are not in competition with one another. And that's what you want to make sure, that when you're intercropping, that they are not in competition with one another. So I wouldn't say plant a cabbage with a fatale pepper plant. You know what I mean? I mean, if it's kind of visually, it just looks wrong, then it is, right? Because we all know cabbages grow big and wide, and you would not couple that with a tomato plant. So you just want to make sure you're pairing your vegetables correctly. So these are some Let's Beets in here. And I will be harvesting the beet greens and putting them in salads and smoothies. And that's what one of the benefits with growing your own food. You get 2 for 1 for a lot of what you grow. Your turnips, you get turnip greens and you eat the turnips. With your radishes, you have radish greens, you eat the greens and you eat the radish. So it's really a win-win. And over here is my rhubarb. I have 2 containers of rhubarb. It's huge leaves. Throughout the week I have to turn them or stake them up so we don't bump them, you know, walking down a walkway. And here is a red cherry tomato plant along with the marigold, more Lutz beets intercropped with a black cherry plant. And here is a Paul Robeson tomato plant coupled with a watermelon radish. Okay, so this is the garden thus far. We have had a lot of rain, so the garden has exploded, guys, since the last garden tour. And there will be substantial growth in the next one. Hopefully by the next one we will have peppers because they are starting to flower. So yep, everything is looking good. And then you all saw the rooftop container garden. I'm gonna take you all back. The other day I had my husband trim, as I mentioned in the video, that I would have my husband trim some of the leaves and branches so it would, excuse me, afford the space more light. As you can see, we did that and it looks good. So, yep, that's the rooftop garden. So I'll give you all an update on that one and the progress of how it's coming along. Probably in another couple of weeks. It's not ready for an update. I just planted everything. So, but yeah, this concludes the garden tour for the month of June. See you next month. Until the next video. Peace and bliss.